everyone, and welcome to week 9 of year 2 of the Religious Education Initiative. We are continuing with the book of Genesis. Last week we saw the flood end, and we saw Noah and his family leave the ark and offer sacrifice to God. We saw God promise never again to destroy every living creature he had made, with a hint in that promise that God's purpose is not to destroy the sinful world, but to save it, as he does in his incarnation by assuming human nature. This time we will see God respond further to the sacrifice and establish a new covenant with Noah and his family, as he had done with Adam and Eve in the garden. This new covenant includes new requirements and new promises. So let's see how it goes. This is chapter 9 of Genesis, verse 1. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said to them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the earth. The fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every bird of the air, upon everything that creeps on the ground, and all the fish of the sea. Into your hand they are delivered. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you, and as I gave you the green plants, I give you everything. Only you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is, its blood. For your lifeblood I will surely require a reckoning. Of every beast I will require it, and of man, and of every man's brother I will require the life of man. Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. For God made man in his own image. And you, be fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly on the earth, and multiply in it. Then God said to Noah and to his sons with him, Behold, I establish my covenant with you and your descendants after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the cattle, and every beast of the earth with you, as many as came out of the ark. I establish my covenant with you, that never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of a flood, and never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the sign of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you, for all future generations. I set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. When I bring clouds over the earth, and the bow is seen in the clouds, I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and the waters shall never again become a flood to destroy all flesh. When the bow is in the clouds, I will look upon it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. God said to Noah, This is the sign of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. So there are a number of things that are important here. We see God make very clear that life is valuable, that nothing is to be killed lightly or freely, that especially human life, he sets a penalty of death for any human being that murders another. That's one important point we see. And we see this emphasis that they're not to eat blood. They're allowed to eat meat, which actually hadn't been permitted up to this point. If you remember in the Garden of Eden, they were only told that they could eat the fruit of the trees. Every plant that was good for food was given to them to eat, but not the animals. This is new. They've just made the sacrifice to God. He's received his portion of the sacrifice. It says that the scent of it pleased him, so he partook with them, but now he's inviting them to also partake. So this sacrifice is a meeting between God and human beings. But he tells them, don't eat the blood. And there are a number of reasons, but the one he gives here is that the life is in the blood. And before we get really distracted, let's just remember at the crucifixion, when Jesus is dying, it matters that he sheds his blood. He gives up his life, and in giving up his life for us, he redeems us. He saves us. Fundamentally, the church believes that the reason blood is considered precious and holy, we may even say, in the Old Covenant, this covenant with Noah, and in the law of Moses, is because it's anticipating, it's prophesying, it's looking forward to the Lord shedding his own blood, giving his life, because the life is in the blood, is the idea. Because anything that bleeds, if its blood is gone, then its life is gone. This is a very practical observation that ancient peoples could make. So, looking forward to Christ's shedding of his blood for us, the blood of the sacrifices is reserved to God. We'll see a little bit more of this on day 2, but that connection needs to be clear. When it says the life is in the blood, you will not eat flesh with its life, that is, with its blood. The blood is to be poured out, given to God, because God gives his blood, his life for us. There's a connection here. And then we see God make a covenant where he promises not to destroy the earth anymore, not to destroy all life. And the sign of it is the rainbow. But we can actually be a little bit more literal about this, because the word for bow is actually not just a thing that curves like this. It is actually the same word that is used for the bow of a warrior, the bow of a king, the bow that he would use to kill. So God is setting his bow up on the rack, as it were. He's saying, I'm not going to kill all of you like this any longer. We're done. The weapon of judgment is hung up. We're going to use a different method now. And this connects actually with the establishment of the sacrifice, this meeting of human beings with God in the offering of an animal, in the shedding of the blood, which is not eaten but is reserved to God in anticipation of the perfect sacrifice of the Son of God, of our Lord Jesus Christ, when he sheds his blood and gives us life in giving up his life for our sake. And we should notice as well that now in the church we are commanded to drink the blood of God when we receive Holy Communion. So there's a purpose for this, and it must not be abused. It only works in the correct and proper setting. There's a lot more that could be said. I know this may be confusing, but just narrow down to this. The life is in the blood. God gives his life for us. This is the critical action on which all of creation is upheld, is suspended. The shedding of the Lord's blood, of his giving of his life to give life to us. And because of this, even the blood of an animal, and especially the blood of a human being, is considered precious and holy, not to be eaten. The other thing we have to remember and understand is this is in the context of pagan worship, of the worship of the demon gods, the fallen angels who rebelled against God, and they did drink blood. So this is not just a random, don't do this thing that you would obviously never think of doing because that's gross. It's forbidding them to participate in these actions that have been going on in active rebellion against God. So there's more we could say. There's a lot to look at here, the establishment of law, of justice, of the value of human life, but let's leave it there. Have a wonderful day. God bless you all. We'll see you for day 2.